Happy, what is it? Where are we today? Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. If you're on here, hit that like button, guys. Hit that like button. Tag anybody on this discussion. Share it with someone that you think may find it interesting. Shout out to DOD in the building. I see you here. Smash the like button. Share the live stream. Yes, all of that. Super chats are open. Y'all know the drill. Also, I want to give a special shout out to Malarkey. Malarkey, I don't know if you are here, but I did see that super chat come through super early, late last night when I actually decided to schedule this video. So shout out to you, Malarkey. As always, support your favorite content creators. Cash App, Venmo, Shay Charday. I will also be sure to acknowledge all super chats. So y'all, let's just get right into today's topic. So let me start off by saying this. I'm noticing a trend of women, or this is narrative in general, I think, of women in different female spaces downplaying marriage, trying to downplay the importance or the desire for marriage, and in some ways, like, recreate this new standard. And the reason I call cap is because we all know that women primarily are the ones who grew up seeing Barbie and Ken and seeing Disney Princess and being literally marketed to since they were like little girls about the importance of marriage. Not to mention, I mean, just sociologically, women generally, we are very relational. So I think right now what I'm seeing is an effort for a lot of different female spaces to try to recreate what is really important, or try to redefine new standards, essentially try to remove the goalposts and say, oh, you know what, marriage, it's not that big of a deal. You can have it or not have it. It's not a big deal, not a big deal, not a big deal. And the reason they're saying that is because I truly believe deep down inside, they fear that they can't get married. They fear that they will never meet a guy or meet a man that would want to marry them, or vice versa. And instead of acknowledging it, instead of saying, you know what, I still would really like to be married, even though I'm doing the modern woman thing, or I decided to focus on my career, or I decided to delay this or this or that, I still intrinsically want to get married, even though I've done hot girl summer. Instead of owning that, they would much rather change the goalpost. Because that is easier than facing the fear of you not being enough. That is easier than facing the fear that no man may actually look at you and see you as wife material. That is easier than facing your own mistakes. And this is what I think I see happening. And it's an issue because now it's one thing if you are truly a woman that just doesn't really desire marriage. I do believe there is a now very small population, but nevertheless, I do believe there is a small select population of men and women who just are better alone and they're happy being alone. And I respect that. But if you are a person who every 15 seconds you are looking at new celebrity relationships, you're looking at engagement rings, celebrity weddings, constantly trying to figure out who black men is sleeping with, constantly in your feelings if a black man chooses a white chick, whatever it may be, if that's you, yeah, you probably want to get married. Like, stop the cap. If you are going around celebrating, looking at marriages, looking at rings, you know what I mean? Looking at wedding dresses, all this different stuff. It's like, you probably want to get married, or at the very least you have that desire. And I'm like, I don't understand why it has to be such a big deal to just own that. And like I said, like right today, you got a lot of spaces I'm seeing where it's like, they're trying to downplay that. And almost to the point to where a woman who desires that, or a woman who owns that and goes after that, or puts herself in a position to receive that, now she's seen as desperate. Now she's seen as, oh, well, she doesn't know her value. She doesn't know her worth. She's lowering her standards. And like I said, the issue with this is that, again, it's not getting to the root problem. It's not getting to the root problem. Like I said, if you really are a woman who does desire marriage and you desire to have a husband and to grow with somebody and to raise a family with somebody and to build a legacy, if you desire that, then you getting around circles of women who are telling you why it's not important is going to help. It's not going to help you. If anything, it's going to make you feel crazy. You're going to be questioning yourself. You're going to have that desire deep down inside, but you're going to try to convince yourself it's not that big of a deal. And so then you waste days and months and even years not positioning yourself to get the very thing that you actually desire. And that, like I said, that to me, I think is something that I'm seeing is a big problem. Because while we're over here trying to downplay the importance of marriage among women, especially among Black women, we see what happens when women go through life without marriage, especially if they have kids. Again, I'm not saying that women can't be content alone. I know women in my own family who never married, and they're fine. They have their own certain issues. Everybody does, but they're fine because they chose that. They chose that. But like I said, somebody who actively chooses to disengage versus somebody else who they really desire it, but they don't know how to do it. And so instead of them facing that trauma or facing that shortcoming, they have to try to gaslight themselves. They have to try to lie to themselves and create a reason as to why it's not important. That to me, that's how you create a lot of frustration. That's how you create a lot of discontentment. That's how you create a lot of bitterness. And this is what we see online, in my humble opinion. Anyways, guys, if you're on here, hit that like button. Y'all tag anybody, share this with someone that you think may find it interesting. Also, please show support to the show. You can find me on Cash App or Venmo, Shay Sade. And as always, super chats are open. I will acknowledge and read all super chats. So that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. That I'm seeing this over and over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, we got to talk about it, because if women, let's just say this, if you're a woman who wants to have kids, in particular, if you want to have kids and raise kids and have multiple kids, you purposefully deciding not to get married, or you choosing to be a single mother or a baby mama, is not setting yourself up for success. That is not to say that you can't, I'm not saying that you can't still figure it out and have some semblance of happiness, but you're choosing the harder road. Especially if you want to have kids. If you're a woman, especially wants to have kids, you are specifically choosing the harder road. If you say, I'm going to delay marriage. No, I don't even need marriage. But then you still end up having a baby. You are setting yourself up for a harder road. So I'm saying we got to be realistic about what the implications are here. Right? If we say, okay, marriage isn't benefit, let's say it's not good for women. Okay, that's fine. Let's be honest about what that means. How many Black women are going to go throughout this life and not have kids? I mean, women are still having kids. So if you choose not to be married, fine. You now decide to be a single mother, fine. You have now made your life harder. Let's just start at the very least financially. So let's just get real about what that is. Now also you're thinking about, okay, now you retire. Now you're trying to get, you're getting into retirement age. Now you want to, you want to settle down. You want to rest, relax. Again, have you made enough money to even be able to sustain that by yourself? Do you know the amount of single older Black women I see working at the grocery store in my neighborhood? And let me say this, there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with working at the grocery store. God bless the grocery store clerks. We all need them. But the last few times I've gone and I've seen this, I've thought in my head, I'm like, I wonder if they're married. Or I wonder if they have a support system, because unfortunately, the world is not set up to sustain a large number of single women who are making middle to low wage incomes. It's not to say they're not valuable as human beings, but as far as if you are a single woman that decides to be single your whole life, fine, you have kids, you're working a low wage or at best middle income job, and you're trying to raise kids by yourself. What about retirement? What about assets? What about buying a home? Like all those things become so much more difficult when you are by yourself. So it's like, we're over here talking about, we don't demand, marriage doesn't benefit us. Marriage isn't necessary. We can do better by ourselves. Like I said before, many of us are doing bad by ourselves, and we're not owning it. And we're not even owning why this is such a trigger point. Because while we scream at the top of our lungs that we're not desperate for marriage, meanwhile, it's so crazy how interested we are in celebrity marriages, in celebrity relationships. That's what I'm saying. I call cap. We're not even being honest. We are not being honest. So, I said, what's going on the Orange Pill Notes? So Orange Pill Notes, I did see your email. I haven't had a chance to get through it. I'm like crazy busy right now, but I'm going to sit down and read it because it sounds quite interesting. Might be worth a follow-up. So anyways, y'all, so I just wanted to I needed to just kind of start with that, because this is partially what inspired me to do this live. I've seen really, quite honestly, over the last few weeks, this theme come up of like, marriage isn't that big of a deal. We don't really need marriage. We're not desperate for marriage. Why do we keep on looking at marriage as a barometer for success? All these different things. And like I said, I have no issue with a woman who doesn't want to get married. I really don't. Like, I have no issue for that. But the issue that I have is the propaganda behind it. And the issue I have is that we're not being honest about what it means if you decide to go that route. So I want to pull up something that Miss Cynthia G shared, because when I saw her post, I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to really start to dig deeply into this topic. As you know, I just started a How to Be a Wife series about 2 weeks ago and am hoping to provide a space for women who actually do want to get married and who own that, hoping to provide a space for them to go and glean some information, get some advice, at the very least, have a place where they can acknowledge that and not be shamed and not be told that they're desperate and not be told that they're horrible. So I started that 2 weeks ago and am hoping to continue to do that for those women who are interested. But along with that, it's so interesting that, as I'm talking about, okay, how to be a wife, like how to create a space for especially Black women who want to do that, who don't feel like they were trained, they feel like they were set up for success. Like, let's have that conversation. At the same time I'm doing this, now I'm seeing this other conversation saying marriage isn't important, marriage isn't necessary, and it doesn't even benefit Black women. So I'm going to pull this up. Because like I said, one thing I could appreciate about Cynthia G is that she is the gift that keeps on giving. She knows how to keep people on her. She knows how to keep the conversation going. Love her or hate her, I can appreciate the work that she does. I disagree with about 99.9% of what she actually says, but nevertheless, she does keep things interesting. So I'm going to bring up her last community post and we're going to get into it. Guys, in the meantime, while I am looking that up, hit that like button, show support to this show, y'all. Like I said, Cash App or Venmo. If you appreciate what we're doing over here, show some love. Y'all show some love. Support your favorite content creators. This is a group effort. And so my hope is to kind of take things to the next level, but I will need your support in order to do so. So that is my spiel. Okay, let me pull up this post that was shared. Y'all. Give me 1 second. Okay. Y'all give me 1 second. I'm pulling it up. Okay. Okay, guys. So let me pull up the exact post that I think I wanted to highlight. So this one right over here. What's going on? Why is my mic now not wanting to work? Okay, guys, sorry about connected. Okay, so this is the post that I think, among other things, I saw this post and I said, let's sit down and really unpack this here, because I'm starting to see women come to my page and try to spew this rhetoric. I'm starting to hear more and more women in these different, content spaces, these different channels. I'm hearing this narrative. So let's actually unpack whether or not this is actually true. So this post, so what it reads, as you see, data and studies show that women do not benefit from marriage, especially Black women. Marriage benefits men. Again, I'm one of those. I wish there were sources provided. I didn't see any, but nonetheless, no problem. I did my own research. It says marriage does not give them a provider or protector. Marriage roots Black women to poverty rather than providing them with wealth. Married Black women still deal with cheating, abuse, side babies, baby mama drama, and abuse. Black women are not getting alimony and walk away from their marriage with less income than they came in with. Marriage does not provide security to Black women, nor are they happy in these unions. Per the 3 times higher divorce rate, and single women are happier and live longer. So what have we heard up to this point? That marriage is horrible. It doesn't benefit Black women, and that essentially Black women do worse once they're married. Shout out to Malarkey with the 5 on the super chat. Again, also shout out for that 10. I saw that 10 early. Well, I think it was late my time, but I saw that earlier today. So I appreciate you. I see 5 dusty British pounds for the collection pot. Support the work of your fave content creators family. Don't just gawp at them. I appreciate you, Malark. I really do. You've been coming through strong. Okay, also shout out to Cynthia G downplays marriage as an objective for Black women because it's off the table for her. No self-respecting Black men would ever marry her. She should speak for herself and not the collective. I appreciate the super chat. And y'all, listen, you hit on what I believe earlier is I think there are women who are promoting this idea because deep down inside, they fear that they themselves will not get married. They will not find a man worth marrying. And instead of facing that fear, they'd rather pump that fear into the hearts of everybody else, knowing full and very well that Black women and women in particular do better when they are married, especially when they're raising kids. This is why we're talking about this, because a lot of this stuff, not only is it not helping the problem, it's hurting women. It's hurting women who actually do and should consider getting married. So let's continue. Says Black women are not getting alimony and walk away from their marriage with less income than they came in with. Marriage does not provide security to Black women, nor are they happy in these unions. Per the 3 times higher divorce rate. So it says, so why are Black women so obsessed with marriage? Marriage is the Black woman certificate of male validation. Black women seem to be the most desperate for male validation, and marriage provides them with the illusion of that. So then she goes to provide some sources. I have no idea what source this is, so I can't speak to this, but here it says the system disadvantages African Americans so severely that tying your life to another person legally can make matters worse, not better. Unfortunately, I was not able to find that source, but I was able to find some of the other sources. So here when it says, studies show educated Black women have to marry down. So I looked this study up, y'all. In this study, it comes from what I saw, it came from Michigan State. That study came from Michigan State. And basically what it says, I can sum it up for you guys. Basically what it says is that women with educations tend to or are more likely to marry down. Black women with educations are more likely to marry down with respect to other races of women. So that's essentially what that article says. If I move on to the other source, let me continue because I'm getting somewhere. If I move on to the other source that she cited, because I want to make sure that I do justice to her sources. Oh, let me see where to go. Sorry guys. Okay, I have to do that again. This one, it says marrying down may cost educated women $25,000 a year. So again, this is another article, and I saw a few different news sources cover this, but basically what it says is that women, then this is Black women or white women, women who marry down may end up costing them. So let's just sum this up again. Basically, what she said is that marriage doesn't benefit Black women. It negatively impacts Black women. And not only that, Black women in these instances actually end up losing out. This is the argument that she used. And she cited two sources in particular, that mention how educated Black women interact in the dating market. So those are the 2 sources that she used. Now, here's the first thing that I noticed when I actually looked at those sources. First off, when we actually consider the percentage of Black women who are college educated, none of that comes up. All of the sources that she mentioned are dealing with educated Black women. What percentage of Black women are educated? and highly educated at that? What percentage? I'm just curious. If you guys maybe let me know in the comment section what y'all think. What percentage of Black today you know that are educated or highly educated? Because that's important. That's an important caveat to know. Also, I want to give some support to those in this super chat. I see Drega001. It says just matching that beautiful Brit. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. See the dusty British pounds. You guys miss me with that. Yeah, I see. Where did Cynthia D get her data from? Yes. So a good question. Again, one of it was, I think, Michigan. It was like a Michigan.edu was one of the sources. It was like a short article at that, and it cited other sources. And then another one was an article. Actually, I can share that with you and a bit, and I will. Toronto Jones, I see the $10 on the super chat. I appreciate you. It says a white stupidist wrote that because it applies this system that doesn't take care of Black women will be the illusion of protection for Black women, just like the welfare system that broke up our families. The end. Again, shout out to Toronto Jones with the 10. Thank y'all for the super chats again. For those of you guys who are coming on, hit that like button. So, okay, so where we're at is we read through Cynthia. We read through her argument that marriage does not benefit Black women at all, and if anything, it can negatively impact them. And I know one of you guys asked for the source, and let me show you one of these sources because I think it's important for us to understand where do we actually get our information from. Because just because there's a study out there does not necessarily mean that it's valid. So let me stop this real quick, and I'm going to bring up one of the sources, and then we're going to get into why this is actually important, and whether or not what Cynthia G is saying is true. Is it true that marriage does not benefit Black women? So here is one of the sources. It says marrying down costs educated women $25K a year. Here it says a less educated husband can spell financial ruin, especially for Black women. This is from the Atlantic. So if you continue to go down, so it's widely known that low educational attainment, neighborhood racial segregation, and a biased criminal justice system are detrimental to Black Americans' ability to climb the economic ladder. So then it just continues. Let's see. Okay, and then here it talks about the issues that Black women experience. Let's pay attention to this particular paragraph because a lot of women run with this. It says there's almost a triple dimension of issues Black women have to deal with, said Chris Marsh, an associate professor for sociology and demography at the University of Maryland. One, they have a low, and I quote this, out marriage rate. And two, if they do marry a Black man, they're more likely to marry someone less educated than themselves. And the other thing is that they're not getting married at all. So, I mean, without me getting too deep into it, this is pretty much one of the primary sources that I would argue that she and other women are using to make their argument. They're saying that women, when they marry, they have to marry down. They are not marrying out, and then they're not married. So for them, that's like the triple whammy that Black women have to actually deal with. Now, here's why we have to get down to what this is. Why this is important. First off, again, we have to ask ourselves, what percentage of Black women are educated? What's interesting about all the sources that I looked at is that the assumption is that Black women, by and large, are walking around here with bachelors and masters and PhDs. What percentage of Black women even have higher education? So I did the research on that, y'all. And last I saw was that about a good 14% of Black women have a bachelor's degree or higher. That is 14%. Notice I didn't say start college, because right now Black women are going around saying, oh, Black women are the most educated, most educated, most educated. Fair enough. But just because a Black woman enters college, just because she starts a course, doesn't necessarily mean that she finishes. We also have to look at student loans and debt, which is something that also disproportionately affects Black women. Not to mention that once you take into account all of that, only about 14% of Black women today in the US have a bachelor's degree or higher. So again, why is this important? When Cynthia G went and said, You know, everything from it doesn't benefit them. They're marrying down. They don't get alimony. They don't get wealth. And she's, you know, she's kind of made these different arguments in some of her different posts and videos. When she and just other content creators in general make these arguments or the assumptions, they are looking at the minority. The minority. Again, it is a good 14% of Black women that have a bachelor's degree or higher. Bachelor's, 14%. So we're not even talking about the majority. We're not talking about the majority. So why are we over here fear-mongering and pushing a narrative that does not apply to the majority of Black women? Why are we doing that? Why are we sitting down here and painting a picture that doesn't even apply to probably the majority of her listeners? As I mentioned to you before, the amount of Black female store clerks that I see at the grocery store every week is alarming. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with working at the grocery store. But I'm saying we already know that if we actually look at the kinds of jobs that a lot of Black women are taking or even have access to, they're not sitting, majority of them are not sitting up in, you know, the top of a skyscraper making demands, bringing in 6-7 figures. That is not the majority of Black women. That's not the majority of women, period. So your average rank and file Black woman, as Mr. Obsidian would use in those terms, this doesn't apply to her. So it's like, based upon that alone, game over. Based upon the very fact that a good, 85% of the Black female population this doesn't apply to, it's like game over. We don't even need to consider this conversation. We don't even need to continue this conversation. This doesn't apply to at least 85% of Black women. So, first off, shout out to TJ Hannah with the $9.99 on the super chat. Let's see some comments. I said, yeah, only 20% may even have degrees, right? So the sources I found were 14%. I mean, give or take, you know, sources, but what we do know, whether it's 14%, even if we do say it's a 20%, let's just be generous and say that it's still not the majority. That's still a good 80% of Black women that doesn't apply to. So, okay, it says only 20% may even have degrees. Lots of sisters have degrees, yet they're working under women with high school diplomas. Yes, other degrees women marry men without degrees. Those dudes are working 60, 80 weeks to match up. Yeah, that's real. Listen, and let's not act like there are jobs out there. Are jobs that they're like, one of my friends has a husband that doesn't. I think he has a high school. He's driving a pickup truck and he makes 6 figures. Like, you have some men who legitimately decided not to go to school. They decided to get a trade or take something else, and they're bringing in 6 figures and they're living a comfortable life. So you don't even necessarily have to have a degree nowadays to still be successful or to be financially okay. Now here it says MS Delta Guy with the 20. I appreciate you, MS Delta Guy. Good to see you. I see to stay out of poverty. 1, finish high school. 2, get a job. 3, wait until marriage and have a baby. I mean, that alone, seriously, that alone, if women did that alone, that would that could change a lot. Not saying you have to be rich, but I'm like, just avoiding the adding kids to a scenario when there's not another individual there, like that. I mean, that alone would do so much. Okay. But anyway, so let's go back to what we were saying before. So what we've discussed is that all these different articles that are saying that Black women are having a hard time marrying because they have to marry somebody with less education than them, because they can't find somebody who's on their level, yada, yada. Again, this is applying to a good 14%, give or take. But it's applying to a minority of Black women. So let's go there. So that's what I'm saying. That alone, game over. This whole conversation of marriage doesn't benefit you economically or whatever because you have to marry down. This does not apply to the majority of Black women. Let's just start there. And then, like I said, when I looked at, okay, so what percentage of Black women have bachelor's degrees? What percentage of Black men have bachelor's degrees? You know what I saw? Black women, it was 14% have bachelor's degree and higher. For Black men, it was 12%. It's about a 2% difference. So it's like we're over here beating our chest talking about how much more educated we are. And I'm like, It's not even that big of a difference. Not to mention that Black men who are actually in those positions, who are working, who are employed, whatever, they're making more money than their women. But okay, that's a whole nother topic, y'all. Y'all don't want to get me started. Anyways, y'all, for those of you who are here, hit that like button. Hit that like button. Oh, you know what, guys? Okay, give me 1 second. My computer is about to die. I need to plug it in. I do this all the time. Y'all, give me like 2 seconds. Let me plug my computer in so it don't die out on me. Okay, let me do this. Okay, y'all, sorry about that. Okay. So, first point. College degrees doesn't apply to majority of Black women, game over. Second point that was being made says Black women are the least likely to marry out. Now, we've heard the whole Black women are just loyal and they're blindly loyal to these men, yada, yada, A, C, X, Y, and Z. Well, you know what the science actually shows? It shows and it suggests that one of the reasons that Black women aren't marrying out is because they can't. Is because they cannot. Think about it. Other races of men have had access to Black women for over 40 or 50 years. Other races of men it has been legally acceptable for them to date and marry Black women for decades now. And yet the interracial marriage rate is pretty stagnant when it comes to Black women. You may see it, up a little here, down a little there, but it hasn't changed that much. And there's reasons for that. It's not because we're just so loyal and we've never turned our eyes towards, Brad, or we've never looked at other races of men. We've never desired them. No one who understands history believes that. There has always been Black women in every single generation who wanted nothing more than to date and marry out of their community. Hence the whole saying Miss Anne syndrome. That didn't just come out of nowhere. That's like a real thing. So there's always been Black women who have wished and desired that they could leave the Black community and integrate into a non-Black community. That's always existed. The issue is there are not open arms for Black women. What was that study I quoted, I think, the last few months ago from Colorado? Where it was like a blind study of white men gave their honest, unbiased opinions of Black women. And the first quote was, I hope I'm not a racist for saying this, but when I think of Black woman, I think of a loud-mouthed, overweight, unattractive woman. That was like the first quote. This was from the University of Colorado, who did a study on how white men found Black women as attractive. A blind study, a study where they could just share their honest thoughts and not be judged. So it's like, again, I'm not saying, of course, there's men out there of other ethnic groups who would be open to that, but we have to still contend with the fact that Black women, by and large, are not seen as a level up for really any race of men. And I think that hurts, and I think that bothers, and I think that infuriates Black women that happens, that you have studies coming back and saying that, Black women and Asian men are seen as the least desirable when it comes to dating apps, where Black women and Asian men are consistently removed from criteria. I think that bothers us. This is why you have Black women deserve luxury movements and, dark skin empowerment and, those different things. This is why you have that, because it's we're reckoning with the fact that so many of us, when it comes to how other races perceive Black women, it's not necessarily that good when we're looking at the collective. And that bothers, it infuriates, it just kills some of us. But instead of reckoning with that, we have to now come up with the lie that we know the real issue is that we're just loyal. That's the real issue. It's not that those men are rejecting us. It's that we haven't opened ourselves up enough to try to date a white man or Asian man or a Hispanic man. No, it's not that. We live in a system that has a history of racism, and there are still racial dynamics at play. It's not that, no. It's that we are blindly loyal to Black men. So this is why we have not been able to date and marry out. This is the kind of BS that we're promoting to Black women. It's gaslighting and it's dishonest and it doesn't get to the real issue. Again, shout out to all you guys who are showing love and support. I see. Let's see what's going on. I see. Okay, again, Miss Delta Guy, I see you with the 20. It says, okay, why some Black women listen to radical white feminists who themselves want marriage or are married. Right. That's the cold part. That's the cold part. While many white women were out there promoting feminism, they were going home with their feminist selves to a husband to submit to or to work with, however you want to put it. They were going in the streets and being rah, 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 you know what I mean? With the picketing, and then going home and being the most pick-me, male-identified woman out there. That's the cold part, y'all. That's the cold part. Okay. So that's what I'm saying, y'all. It's like, we are not even being honest with ourselves here. And then I also see DOD with there on the, wait, where'd you go? Wait, where'd you go? Okay. It says Cynthia G knows her fans won't do the research. That part. She knows that. She knows the most people not doing research. They're just going to see some random article on there on YouTube or on Google or whatever, and they're just going to assume it's true. They're not going to look at the sources. They're not going to even see if there are sources. They're not going to look at the sample size. They're not going to look at the methodology. They're not going to look at any of that. They're just going to look at, did somebody else say it? Is it on the internet? Then therefore it must be true. And that's exactly how propaganda is spread, y'all. And that's why this stuff is so dangerous. So shout out to DOD. I appreciate you. Okay, I saw some other super chats I want to make sure that I acknowledge before I move on with my next point. Eugene Steele, what's going on? Eugene Steele, always good to see you. I see. We as men marry women who are not as educated as us or does not earn money more than us. We don't call it marrying down. Right. You really don't. Because you're not in competition. Like, you're not, my humble opinion, but I don't think men are out there in competition like, oh, let me try to get a better degree than my wife, or let me try to get a better degree than, like, they're not looking at it like that. They don't really care. So, like, okay. Let's continue. The orange pill nurse, I see. Female nurses I work with got $50,000 and up of student loan debt and are deferring them and taking more classes to avoid payments, but going on trips every going on trips every month, living the high life. Oh my God, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. Prime example. And again, what you referred to, the orange pill nurse, the Black woman that you're around. Oh, you said not even Black woman, just female nurses, period. Again, we're talking about a minority of women. So most women aren't even going to find themselves in a scenario where they have to choose to be with a man that has less education than them. Most women are not going to have to deal with that. Again, shout out to MS Delta Guy with 100 on the super chat. You've been coming through today. It's good to see you in the building. Thank you. Again, MS Delta Guy, I see Shay. Thanks for all of your great work, analysis, and truth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank y'all for the support. Like I said, I appreciate it. So, okay. So just to get back into it, y'all, that's what I'm saying. It's like, so education, this don't apply to most Black women. And then when we get to the honest conversation about marrying out, this is where the gaslighting goes to like 0 to 100. This is where we start lying to ourselves. We start telling ourselves we're just so loyal to these Black men. They've never been loyal to us, you know, all these different things. And we just, when you understand what's actually going on, what has happened historically, and even when you look at the data, it does not show that. The real issue that a lot of Black women are having a hard time contend with is the fact that at the end of the day, there's no other race of people out there that look at marrying Black women as a level up. Nobody sees marrying a Black woman as a level up generally. No culture. And I think that's hard to contend with. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't people individually who will see past that and may find a lovely Black woman they'll fall in love with. But that happens. But I'm saying, does your average person coming from another ethnicity, strong background, I mean, when you think of phrases like mejorar la raza, right? Like improve the race, like things like that. They're not saying improve the race by marrying a black woman with dark skin and kiki hair. They're not saying that. Like those kinds of phrases exist when you understand like colorism and things that really does have that impacts different ethnicities. And so that's what I'm saying. I think these are the kinds of issues that I think are very hard for black women to deal with, because it makes them have to face the fact that they already feel undesirable, some of them. They already feel like they're not good enough, some of them. And facing that hard truth is just too much to bear. Quite frankly, I just think it's too much to bear for some of them. And so instead of them acknowledging that, like, yeah, there is still people out there who they might hold on to some racist ideas when it comes to who you are as a black woman. They just can't deal with it. It has to be black men's fault that they are not able to marry out, although they wish they could. When all of the science and evidence and history is pointing to the fact that there has been decades upon decades for men of other ethnic groups to marry us in droves, yet they have not. Why? So I think that's hard. I think that is hard. And then he leaves the other point, black women aren't marrying. And again, somehow, that becomes black men's fault that black men aren't marrying. At one point, it was okay, black men don't commit. That was one thing. And then when we figured out, well, actually, there's more black men who are married than black women, although there are less men. Although there are less black men than black women today, more black men are married. So it's like, so then that argument falls apart. You can't say that black men aren't committing when more black men are marrying. So we had to move the goalpost. So now it's not okay, black men aren't they can't commit. Now it's black men only want Becky. Then we looked at the data there and we showed that no, black men still by and large are dating and marrying black women. And even when many of them go overseas, SYSBM, they are choosing women from Africa or from the Caribbean. They're choosing black women across the diaspora. Okay, so now we have to change the goalpost because we've seen it's not that black men aren't marrying black women. So now the new goalpost is, you know what? No, we don't need marriage. We don't even need to marry black men because it doesn't benefit us. So do you see how these arguments and the goalpost continues to change based upon whatever suits the narrative of deflecting women? And that's what's happening. That is literally what's happening. So like I said, the new narrative right now is that we don't even need marriage. It doesn't benefit us. It doesn't benefit women at all financially. It's not helpful. It's useful. Again, according to what the Atlantic said, 25%, no, not 25%. It says marrying down costs educated women $25K. So this is the new narrative. This is what they have to pilot. This is what they have to try to sell to black women, that this doesn't benefit you, black woman. It doesn't. And why is this dangerous? Because actually it does impact black women. Actually, most women, black women who end up being single and single mothers in particular, are impacted the most negatively. So let's actually get down to the nitty-gritty of what is happening. What is happening? Again, shout out to you guys who are there. Hit that like button. Also, actually one other thing I wanted to highlight is when we go back, because let me show this to you actually while I am on this, because this is another important point. I want to go quickly back to the post that Cynthia G made. And let's also highlight how her argument that there's an argument that she made, right? That single black women, or just black women or women who are single with no babies, are the happiest. She made that in there. Well, I think I can find that line. Yeah, it says that black women aren't happy in these unions. But just not giving them a fight over marriage breaks back. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find that one part. Black women are not getting on when they walk away from the marriage. Black women seem to be the most discriminated. Man, okay. Yeah, but basically, there's also another study where she basically talks about, black women are happiest when they are single and when they were childless. I'm trying to find if there's a one sentence. Black women are not getting alimony, walk away from the marriage with less than oh yeah, here it is. Here it is. It says, and single women are happier and live longer. That's kind of what I wanted to add. Okay, I wanted to highlight that. Sorry guys, I was like, where did it go? So in there it says single women are happier and live longer. So again, these ideas they're coming from a place, and I want to show you another source that is oftentimes used to promote this idea that single women are happier. Childless and alone. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys actually, first of all, do y'all even believe that? Do y'all even believe that single childless women out there today, by and large, are happier? Now, I am not referring to women who choose to be single and childless, which is a very small minority. I'm not referring to them. Just saying your average rank and file woman out there today, is she happy and elated if she doesn't have kids or marriage? What do y'all think? Okay, so let's go to the source. Okay. So here we have Business Insider that says women who are unmarried and childless are the happiest people of all, according to a professor of behavioral science. This, in my humble estimation, is where she is getting her information. This is where she's getting. Now, just before we get into it, don't you guys find it convenient that Business Insider would promote the idea that women are happier when they're not raising kids, when they're not married, but when they're working and in the workforce? Doesn't that sound convenient? Is that surprising that Business Insider, who was deeply connected with corporations and other businesses, would promote an ideology that would lead to more people in the workforce? Is that surprising to you? Is that curious? But I digress. Let's continue. So this is what I think is something that's actually kind of fueling. And this is what I'm saying before. What happens is we'll find an article and we'll just kind of run with it. We don't look at the sources. We don't look at the sample size. We don't even look at the methodology. If it actually supports our point, then we're going to go with it. So, but this is the source. And if you kind of read down into it, here are some of the main points. It says women who are unmarried and childless are the happiest subgroup of the population as a whole, according to a happiness expert. Paul Doolin, a professor of behavioral science at the London School of Economics, says that while men benefit from being married, women generally don't. Although tying the knot and having children are typically considered markers of success, women who shun this pressure despite the stigma tend to be happier and healthier as a result. So that is pretty much the summary. So of course, like the good scholar that we are at Shea Charday, I had to try to find the information. I had to say, okay, where are the sources? So we looked through, and what basically discovered is that there weren't any sources in this article. Now, what we did discover is that who they were referring to was Paul Doolin, a professor of behavioral science at the London School of Economics. And upon further research in Google Scholar and other sources, what we figured out was that this man wrote a book. He wrote a book about happiness that just so happened to be on sale and just so happened to be the source of some of these different ideas. So what did I do? We got the book. And you know what was interesting about the book? After looking through how he measured happiness and looking through what exactly was being addressed, let me see guys if I can actually pull this. Just give me 1 second, because some of this stuff is important. Let's see. Okay, so I might actually be able to show you guys figures if I can, but actually no, I may not be able to. Okay, guys, give me 1 second, because if I can, I can actually bring up the sources and show you guys directly. But that might be complicated. But anyways, okay, so make a long story short, I went to Business Insider, which was probably where these ideas come from. Business Insider conveniently is pushing an idea that would essentially lead to more women not having kids, not marrying, and spending more time in the workforce. Surprise, surprise. Anyways, we look at the Business Insider article, we try to find the sources, we land on a book that is for sale that is measuring the happiness. Now, what's interesting is that when we actually read through the book, what we found out was that what they were measuring, it wasn't happiness as far as like overall state of being. They weren't saying that women who were childless and woke up and had a stronger sense of purpose and felt better about themselves and were less stressed and had more money. That's not what they were saying. You know how they measured happiness? You know how they came to this conclusion? They called, I think it was about 20,000 people on the telephone, randomly called 20,000 people. They asked them what they were doing at that particular time, and then they asked them to measure their satisfaction with that activity. So let's just take, for example, let's say you call a mother with 4 young kids and she changed diapers all day. Let's say you call her and then you say, hey, how did you like your activity? How happy were you with your activity of changing diapers? And she may give you a low rating. Then you go and the next time you call a young 20-year-old who just got back maybe from the club, or she got back from a trip, or she just had dinner with a friend. And they said, hey, how happy were you with your activity of going to the club or having dinner at dinner somewhere? And then she gives you a score. That is how they measured happiness. Happiness was measured based upon activities. So it wasn't even based upon the things that we perceive as happy, like overall state of being, purpose, sense of self, none of that. They were literally comparing activities. And like I said, if you are a mom with like a couple of kids, you're changing diapers, you're in the heat of child rearing, and you're comparing those activities to somebody who doesn't have kids, who's, every couple of weeks going to restaurants, going on trips, that is not a fair comparison. So that already we're looking at the study and I'm like, this is not what it's saying. Also, when you actually read the book that is responsible for some of these different articles, nowhere in that book does it say that single and childless people are the happiest. Actually, what it said was that you cannot determine your level of happiness based upon your marital status. So what they were saying is like, just because you're married doesn't mean you're going to be happier. Just because you're single doesn't mean you're going to be happier. Happiness is based upon a lot of different factors. That is what the study said. It also said, and again, I will link, if you guys want to geek out, we'll add the link to the in the description so you can check out the book. What the book also said was that as far as purpose, married people had a higher sense of purpose. All across the board, married people had a higher sense of purpose. They also said that married people were generally either more happy or they were generally more depressed. So they had a wider range of emotion. All these different things. But nowhere in that book, nowhere in the source that they reference, did it ever say that single and childless women were the happiest. I never said that. So like I said, you remember what I said, that if you just kind of randomly go on Google and then just try to find a random article that supports your point, how you can kind of fall into propaganda? Because upon digging and looking at the sources and looking at actually what the study was, there's no way you could come to that conclusion. It didn't exist. It did not exist. So, okay, so let's see. Shout out to KW Don 7. For the 2, it says it's profitable to keep people single. Like I said, it definitely is profitable to keep people single. So I appreciate you. Also, so I'm not gonna answer ignorant comments, but good try, nurse Jessica. So let's continue. She said, I love the fuck you. I do appreciate the $2 though. I do. So, okay. So that's, like I said, we looked at the source and that's actually what we determined, that nothing, literally nothing in this article. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, where'd you go? Because this is important, guys. I know we're kind of geeking out here, but all this is for a greater point. If I can actually find what I'm looking at. Where'd you go? I have too many things open. Ha! No, that's not it. Crap. Is it this one? Is it this one? Where'd it go? Okay, sorry guys. Okay, I think I found it. So again, nowhere in this source from Paul Doolan, the actual Paul Doolan, the professor of behavioral science, nowhere in that book did it actually suggest that. What it suggested, again, was that basically you cannot determine happiness based upon your marital status. So yes, I'm not going to say just because a woman marries that she's automatically going to be happier. No, if you're a depressed single woman, you're going to get married and still be depressed. And that's essentially what that book said. It also said that people who are super poor and people who are really, really rich tend to be unhappier. It says people who tend to, as far as happiness, people who generally have the most happiness or the most satisfied, quote unquote, are people who are like kind of middle in the road, have like a solid income, not crazy rich, not crazy poor. But they said usually people who start to get super uber rich are actually less happy. Same with people who are poor. So again, like all these different things. But what happens is, we'll find this little idea and then we'll just run with it. I said when you actually research and look at the sources, none of it is true. None of it is true. So again, I will link the source to that. If I can, let me see if I can put it in there right now. Let me see. Yeah, you guys, I'm gonna get it and then try to link it because I know some of you guys said you guys want to check out the book yourself. So yeah, you can find it on Amazon. But so I know we're going over a lot, so I kind of want to circle back. So what we've actually discovered so far is one, all the different points that are being made to actually try to suggest that Black women are not happy when they're married. Right? That Black women, when they marry the least educated. And then that, let me see. And that Black women are happier single, childless. And that Black women, they're still getting abused and they're still being taken advantage of. They're getting the money taken advantage, yada, yada. None of the stuff that I found in any of the sources provided suggests that. None of it. As I mentioned before, only about 14% of Black women are educated, so they're already out of the conversation. The majority of women out of the conversation. Not to mention, happiness. We cannot say that single women without children are happier. That's not what that study is showing. And honestly, just none of it is true. Now let's actually get into now what happens to women who do choose to not marry and they do choose to be bad all by themselves. Because another popular idea that I hear is that women who choose not to marry and focus on their career and focus on themselves, they're okay. They're happy. They're living their best lives. Hot girl summer, ABC, X, Y, and Z. So here's just a few numbers since we want to get into the fact of whether or not marriage benefits women. Let's look at the income. Let's just go back to the income. I did some research on this, and if we look at the average income of a Black female today, the average income of a Black female today is $36,000. $36,000. That is the average income or so of the Black female today in the United States of America. $36,000. $36,000. The cost of gas, the cost of inflation, cost of a mortgage, rent, maybe child support, diapers, food. How is $36,000 doing? Is that giving her the luxury boss babe, level up city girl lifestyle that is so popularly and so heavily promoted among women? Is $36,000 doing that? Is that the lifestyle that your average Black woman is living off of 36K? Is it? So this is the average income of a Black woman, $36,000, single Black woman. Black male, it's about 40K, give or take. And like I said, inflation, pandemic, it may have changed a little bit here and there, but by and large, this is still where we're at. For Black male, it's 40K. So still, Black men are still making more. For all of you, these Black men are broke, dusties. Well, then you're dustier because you're probably making less than a Black man with your same class, in the same opportunities, same education, whatever. You're probably making a little less. So let's just start there. So $36,000, the average income of a single, just of a female. Now, when we look at actual single women-led households, again, the average is $36,000. $36,000 of your single woman-led household. Now, what is the average income of a married couple family income? What's the average income of a household of a man and a woman? The average income is just below $82,000. $36,000, $82,000. $36,000, single woman by herself, raising kids, raising a family, whatever. $36,000 average. Married couple, $82,000 average. Does marriage benefit Black women? Does it benefit Black women? Do Black women benefit from $36,000 raising kids by themselves, doing things by themselves, whatever? $36,000? Or is it more beneficial, at the very least financially, if there was somebody else in making more than twice that? $36,000, $82,000. Which sounds better to you? I mean, y'all, am I crazy? What sounds better to you? What sounds better? So this is, you guys, okay. This is what I'm saying. Nobody is over here acting like you have to, nobody's trying to force anybody to get married. Truth be told, if you're a woman out there going around talking about how horrible men are, they probably don't want to marry you anyway. So it's like win-win. Win-win scenario. Don't get married and don't have kids if you have that much hatred. Okay, everybody's happy. So if that is you, hand clap. Like I said, if you hate men that much, okay, like if you hate men that much and you are over there promoting misandry, talk about how you don't want no kids because all these kids and all these Black men gonna be dusty anyways. God bless you. Thank you, and continue upon that. What's going on there? Sorry. Continue on that path because they probably don't want you anyway. So it's like let's get that out the question. But let's not sit here and act like that those women who actually do want to be married do not have more of a benefit. Not only do women who generally find themselves in marriages, they have more money out the gate. Out the gate, you're going to have more income. You're going to have access to more income. Also, generally, women who get married actually tend to have more wealth. Well, actually, let me see, because this is a good study. You don't believe me? I got to bring the receipts, y'all. So I'm going to do just a quick. This is where we can talk about, okay, so what are the benefits of getting married? What are the benefits of getting married? Simple math. We just looked at the numbers. We discovered that a single woman-led household average 36K. That's what she's making. So for all you boss babe, level up. I can do bad by myself. I don't benefit from marriage. It's not that important. I can raise a kid on my own. Fine. You're doing so on average with $36,000. You're looking at a married couple. They're working with $82,000. So based upon simple math and economics alone, you can't say that. When you have more money to work with, especially in the economy such as this where there's an inflation, when you have more money to work with, you're probably going to be a little better off. So we've discovered that that's untrue. Now, I'm gonna go over this really quick because I think this also helps drive this point home. Also, okay, I do see some super chats come through that I would like to acknowledge really quick because I don't want to make sure I don't miss any questions. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Wait. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get you. Okay. Sorry, guys. Where'd you? Okay. Shout out to Deanie with the 10. I see. I'm so sorry for messing up, Sade. My fingers hit the wrong button. That's all good. I don't know where you messed up, but it's all good. You good, Deanie. I appreciate the support. You're like super consistent. So I appreciate you. Oh, I'm in Sade, the autocorrect. It's okay. It's all good. Honestly, I've heard worse before. I've heard so much worse. So you are totally okay. Okay. Let me see. Um, Also, shout out to KW Don 7 for the super chat. It says Cynthia G got pregnant. Oh, by YouTube, who already had multiple children by multiple women and refused to commit to her, so now has an axe to grind. Yeah, I don't pretend to be an expert. I do not pretend to be an expert on Cynthia G's personal life. I'm not, I kind of let that be. But what we do know, based upon what she presents, is that she obviously has had her fair share of traumatizing experiences with Black men. That is obvious. That is one thing I know for sure. Okay, so let me pull this up. Oops. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Oops, sorry guys. No, I want to stop. Okay, let me try this again. I'm bringing up this study that I think, I think sums up pretty well. What are some of the benefits of marriage? So we can just kind of lay this to rest, or at the very least we can provide some resources. So here it says, this is from the Institute for Family Studies. It says 2 is wealthier than 1. Marital status and wealth outcomes among pre-retirement adults. Here it says the United States is an increasingly unequal society along many dimensions, including household wealth. Says the significant minority of adult men and women who get and stay married are much more likely to hold greater wealth. So again, if you get married and stay married, you're at the very least financially, you're going to be better off than your single and divorced counterparts. That's essentially what that's saying. It says to an important extent, the wealth divide in America coincides with a marital divide across the nation. So then it kind of break down the way some of these different things happen. It says the marital divide in assets for 50-something adults is substantial. As figure 1 indicates, married Americans have more than twice the average assets of divorced and never married Americans. So again, married Americans have more than twice the average assets of divorced and never married Americans. Even after controlling for gender, age, education, race, ethnicity, and scores on the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, a standardized test that measures mathematical, scientific, and word knowledge. On average, stably married men and women have more than $640K in assets, while the remarried have more than $450K in assets. By contrast, divorced and never married Americans have only about $167K in assets when they reach pre-retirement years. So, y'all, I mean, basically what it's saying in no uncertain terms is that if you get married and you stay married, or you're in marriage, not only do you usually have more wealth, you usually have more assets. Why? Because 2 are better than 1. It kind of makes sense to people. Let's say they're working, or even if they're not working. I mean, there's other benefits to getting married. There's emotional support, physical support, psychological support, different things that may be intangible, but can actually lead to physical results. If you want to geek out, again, I think I do link that source in the description of this video. If you want to geek out and read all the different sources and how it kind of looks with different age groups, you can. But at the end of the day, people who get married and stay married usually have more wealth. They just do. They usually have more assets. They just do. They usually have a higher income. Now, we can go and argue as to what exactly, why, and how that happens. That's a whole separate discussion. But what you can't say is that if you choose to be single and choose to not have kids or be married, you're going to be better off. You actually can't say that honestly with a straight face when you look at the data. You can't say that because the sources that they provided to try to prove that, at best, they were misunderstood at best. I mean, some of the stuff was just blatantly a lie, like it wasn't even there. But at best, those sources were misunderstood and they were misapplied. Because like I said, all the women that they say, the Black women they say have a hard time marrying and finding love or whatever, that's the minority of women who have college educations, college degrees. That's a good 14%, if that. Like I said, and that's assuming they don't get married in college. Usually if you get married in college or whatever, then you're fine. But again, it's just a minority of women. So it's like you can't, looking at evidence, there's no way you could look at this and actually say, I'm going to be better off as a Black woman if I don't get married. If I choose to not get married, I choose to not have kids. You can't say that economically. You can't say that socially. You can't say that as far as assets. You just can't say that. Now, if it's something you want to do personally, that's fine. That's fine. But no data backs up your point. None of it. And if you want to use the fact that, oh, well, there's baby mama drama and there's this person being abusing you and this person's having an affair, this person is cheating, all of those things can happen when you're shacking up with a person. All those things can happen when you're dating. People get cheated on all the time when they're dating. People get knocked up and pregnant all the time when they're dating. People get abused all the time. So it's not like you get married and then all of a sudden this abuse comes out from nowhere. You can experience abuse inside a marriage, outside of a marriage, when you're dating, when you're in a situationship, like it can happen. So even the way it's presented as if you're only going to be getting abused when you're married, it's like, stop the cap. Stop the cap. Like if you are attracted to toxic people, you're going to find those toxic people whether you're married to them or not, because you're existing in toxicity. So you're attracting it. That has nothing to do with whether or not marriage is valid. Nothing. Yeah, shout out to TJ. I see you not only get a break on taxes when you retire, that's 2 SSN checks in the household. They trade away marriage for fancy cars and trips. So again, y'all, I know we kind of shout out to Mom 5 or Malcolm Sneed with the 5. I appreciate it. I really do. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. Okay, so what we discovered really at the end of the day, do single Black women benefit from not marrying? You can't say economically, socially, as far as assets, socioeconomically, you can't say that. No, the answer to that is no. Now, if a person wants to do that personally for their own emotional reasons, by and large, yes, that's okay. But based upon the different things that we value as a society, that women value as a society, as far as financial stability, as far as access to wealth, as far as access to even good health care, as far as, homes, cars, based upon the things that women themselves value. You can't say that it's better for you to do it alone. It's not when you look at the data. As I mentioned before, single women by and large are making about $36K by themselves. $36K. Single Black men, it's around 40 on average. You combine that, men and women come together in a married household, now that jumps up to 82K. And then some of the sources that I just showed you, what it said is that people who get married and stay married have exponentially more wealth than those who are divorced or those who never marry. So nothing out there supports the idea that single childless women are killing it and living their best life and boss babes on $36,000 a year, especially when they have kids. Nobody believes that. As I mentioned before, we try to, and we have to convince ourselves of these realities because that is easier than facing the hard and sometimes scary truth that we don't think we're marriage material. And we don't know how to deal with that. We don't know where to go. We don't know who to talk to. We're afraid to look in the mirror. And instead of looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? I do want to be married, but I don't even know where to begin. Or I'm scared, or I like men, but I fear men at the same time, or whatever trauma that may be going on. Instead of acknowledging that, it's so much easier to yet again move the goalpost and create a new reason why marriage isn't important, marriage to a Black man isn't important, Black men are the problem, and I'm just gonna go over here and live my own life and be okay. It's easier to live in that delusion. And it's comforting to get around other people who are going to lie to you and tell you that that's okay. But it's not. As I mentioned before, if a woman chooses actively, presently say, hey, you know what? I just don't want kids. No issue with that. No issue with that. But you can't also say that that's the best route for the collective of Black women, and that's the happiest route for the collective of Black women, when nothing out there is no data, there is no information, there are no stats, there is no science, there is nothing that points to that being true. If that were true, every 15 seconds, Black women, by and large, wouldn't be concerning themselves with who Black men are dating, marrying, and sleeping with. If they really didn't care, and if they were so happy with being single, a Black man's dating preference would never be in their conversations. They'd be focused more on trips. They'd be focused more on their own emotional well-being. They wouldn't be talking about the Black male pathology every 15 seconds. They wouldn't be focusing on how effed up Black men are or how dusty beta males are. They wouldn't be talking about men because they wouldn't care. They'd probably be talking about how they're living their happy lives. Like I said, next trip, next business venture, maybe they're volunteering. Those are the things that would be on their mind. And so this is why I think all of this is just a big lie. And I think all of it is just a way to try to gaslight women and to try to get them from not dealing with their own stuff, dealing with their own issues and trauma. And you can insult me and call me all kinds of names, but that doesn't deflect from the reality that you live every single day. If you are one of those women who this resonates with you and you hate it, you can insult me all you want. You can blame Black men all you want. You can go and create a new avatar and troll me and talk about how horrible of a person I am, or if I'm a colorist, or I'm a trans one day, and the next day, well, I'm not even that cute. And then the next day, well, I try to look too cute for men. And the next, you can do all of that, but that doesn't change the fact that if that's your reality, and if you're living in that fear, that's your reality. And all I'm saying is that, like, can we just stop lying to ourselves, please? Can we just be a little honest with the fact that there's nothing wrong with wanting to get married. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be in a relationship. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to get married, but let's not lie about it. And let's stop lying to ourselves, because this is what hurts women. And actually, most of you probably would benefit from marriage if you could actually get it. And that's the part that I think a lot of women don't want to accept. In this era where we've convinced ourselves that we don't need men and that we could do bad all by ourselves, and we are doing bad by ourselves, it's humbling to admit that actually we can't do it alone. That's humbling. And yet that's reality. And I think if we could just admit that, people might actually be happier. Just my opinion. So shout out to Elijah Shabazz, man with the 50. Elijah coming through. I appreciate it. Y'all, all the love and support today is surreal. I appreciate it. It's all good. I see you will be shocked at who these women get knocked up by. These men literally be the lowest of the lowest. Trust me, I've been up close and personal. Then put the blame on this educated good men for it. Then the cycle continues. You ain't lying. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation on how to choose better, you know? I mean, I had a conversation, my special guest yesterday that I interviewed. And she was honest with me, I mean, she's been married now 42 years, but she told me, she was like, back when she was young, she had a guy, he was a good guy, he loved her, like he wanted to pay for her college, he wanted to buy her a ring, like he was just so nice, he would take her everywhere, like just was just like the best guy. She said she would tell him, "Oh, I don't like your hair." He would cut his hair. She would, say, "Hey, can you wear this?" She would wear it. Like he did everything for her, everything for her. And she didn't like him because he was too nice. She literally said, he was like, he came up to me and he was like, "You would like me better if I punched you and gave you some flowers." And she was like, "Yeah, actually I would. Actually, I would." So she let this good guy who literally wanted to pay for her school, wanted to take care of her, wanted to marry her, give her a ring, would do anything for her. She let this really good, genuine guy go because he was too boring. He wasn't toxic enough. And so she let him go. And we talked about that. And she now, 42 years later, she looks back and she acknowledges that. But she's like, yeah, like, I was so toxic at that time that I didn't know how to deal with somebody who was loving. I needed somebody that had a little hell in them. I needed a little bit of hellishness. And then she got with a husband and it's like, okay, I'm used to this. I'm used to this trauma. We arguing, we're fighting, we're bickering. I'm used to this. I can deal with this. And so you make a good point. How many of us, even, it's like I said, we don't even know how to choose. So over here talking about these dusty beta males because that's the only thing we're attracted to. And that's the only thing we're attracting. And oftentimes, again, going back to being honest with ourselves, why are we attracted to dusty beta males? If we are surrounded by dusties, why? Because like attracts like. Water seeks its own level. So if you look around and all you're seeing is dust, you don't think dust is getting on you. Nobody walks in a dusty room and doesn't get it on them. Usually you walk in a dusty room, it's like you're coughing, you inhale it, like you can't be surrounded by dust and it not impact you. So that is your experience. What's going on? What is going on, y'all? What's going on? What's going on, Crimson Cure? It's good to see you. I love your content. It's always good to have you here. Shout out to the Crimson Cure. Y'all, I mean, yeah, so they got a Dust Bunny puppet for it, but right, that part. So y'all, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, I mean, at the end of the day, we know this is all cap. We looked at every source mentioned and then some. And none of it was true. It was all gaslighting. It was all false. It was ABCXY. It just wasn't real. And then when we go further and look at the numbers, there is no way that you can honestly look at what's happening statistically. No audio. Okay, y'all, I was going on a rant. I don't know what the last thing that y'all heard was, but basically all I was saying was that, oh, I see you're muted. Yeah, all I was saying, y'all, I'm trying to wrap this up, is that basically at the end of the day, uh, we just got to be honest with ourselves. What I said before is still true. What I said before is still true. You have a lot of women out there who, because they are deep down inside afraid or fearful or aware that they won't get married, instead of acknowledging that and admitting that and owning that hard, scary reality, it's a lot easier to change the goalpost, to change up the narrative, to blame it on men. That's the easier way to do it. There's never a conversation. There's never a moment in time where you say, "Hey, if I'm the common denominator in all these situations, maybe I'm the problem." That never comes up. Never comes up. It's always the men's fault. And so that's what I'm seeing. We went from, oh, Black men don't commit to us. We went from that. And then we figured out that was a lie because we see that more black men are married than black women, although less black men exist. So that was the first one. Black men don't commit. We figured out that's a lie. Then it came to, black men only want to marry Becky. Okay, then we figured out that's a lie because the majority of black men to date still date and marry black women, even when they go SYSBM. A lot of them go to the Caribbean, to Africa to get a woman of African descent. So that's a lie. And so now, because both of those lies have been called out, now we have to switch it to, marriage doesn't benefit black women to begin with. And we've already discovered that is a lie. Black women who are single, especially single mothers, they are impacted the most economically. They're impacted the most. They struggle the most economically. So you can't say that. Also, statistically, we looked at some of the different information. Married couples who stay married, they have the most wealth and the highest assets. And y'all all know that all these hypergamy, level up, female, black, luxury, femininity channels, all they care about is some money and some wealth and some assets. So the best way to do that, based upon all of the evidence and science, is through marriage. So I call cap. It's all a lie, y'all. It's all a lie. So y'all, thank you for bearing with me. I know that was a lot. Wait, I think we went down. Okay. Yeah, the every 5.5 hour lie. Y'all, I broke that down. The every 5.5 hour lie. I broke that down in the Black Femilize. So if you didn't see that, check that out, because all of the sources are in there, all of the information, just another one of the lies. So I think I got it, y'all. That was a lot of information. I know we kind of powered through, but I think it was important for us to actually just kind of break this down and be like, y'all, can we just listen? Can we just stop with the cap? If I see this propaganda continue, then I might have to address this more formally. But I will leave all of these sources in the description for you guys to check out yourselves, as that is important. And I said, I guess independence. Let's see. Yeah, so the 1989, 2000 talking points, they don't work anymore. The old talking points don't work anymore. This is why they have to change. This is why I'm saying, it's like, notice how these talking points evolve in such a way that continues to blame black men and continues to give a pass for black women. And at no time is there ever an encouragement for women to look in the mirror and say, okay, yeah, maybe men have their issues, but I'm not perfect. I have my issues too. That's never a part of any of these narratives. It always just shifts and morphs in a way that keeps black women stuck in their own delusion. And I'm not about that. So that's what I'm saying, y'all. We can sit here and point fingers. That's fine. But it's out there. The truth is out there now. If you want to accept it, that's on you. If you don't want to accept it, that's on you. But yeah, this stuff is a lie. So anyways, this was fun. We got a lot out of here. I'm trying to think if I missed anything else. Yeah, I think I'm trying to miss anything else, y'all. I appreciate all of you guys for the support. If you guys are coming in here late, no worries. If you guys want to get all the sources, I mentioned all of that earlier on in the video, so y'all can catch a playback. But anyways, y'all, thank you for tuning in. If you like this one, be sure to hit the like button, share it, tag it, pass it along to anyone who you think might find it interesting or is legitimately curious as to whether or not marriage benefits black women, since they are so convinced that they can do bad all by themselves. As I've said before, black women who think they can do bad all by themselves generally are doing bad all by themselves. And if nothing else, let that settle in. Let that settle in. Yes, Sashay, I think you were very thorough tonight in your research. Thanks very much for the live stream. I enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, and again, I'll say this. I want to reiterate, I'm not here to shame any black woman who chooses to be by themselves. That's a very small minority of women. Those who actively choose that and actively prepare their lives to sustain themselves by themselves, no issue with that. But we gotta stop the cap with the black women as a collective are doing better when they're single and childless. No one believes that, first of all. Or that Black women are doing better by themselves, period. No one believes that. So it's like, stop. Anyways, this is fun. This is good. Appreciate all of you guys for the support and the love. Stay tuned for other upcoming topics next week. I have a couple of interviews coming down the pike next week, so that should be fun. Anyways, y'all have a good weekend, and we'll talk later. Bye.